What is up, Revival Gamers? It is round 7, also known as Losers Quarterfinals. We've got some good gaming coming up for you, two hype matchups. Unfortunately, my community manager is on vacation, taking a break, and that was the person who was making the bracket images. I am not nearly as fancy, so I um, am just going to focus on the actual bracket sheet that we've been including in the videos. We had round 6 last round. It included winners semis, which is ABR and Behe won. Mana and Sedlecius were unfortunately dropped to the lower bracket. And so, yeah, next round we're going to have winners finals, which is ABR versus Behe. Then we have Mana versus Fruhdazi in the losers quarters bracket. Mana versus Fruhdazi and Endil versus Sedlecius. So we're going to get right into those games. Thanks for watching, and yeah, kick it over to the commentator.
Hello ADV enthusiasts, it is Callus. I've got a YouTube channel. It's called youtube.com/CallusNarrates if you want to check that out. And welcome back to Jimvitational. It is round 7. We are getting serious, and we are in the lower bracket, meaning it is an elimination match here. Loser is going to be so close but so far from that cash money and out of here. If you may recall, I also narrated Mana's set in the previous round, round 6, against Behe. And unfortunately, he did lose that set, and he is facing a punishment for doing so worse than death. He's being forced to play and schedule with a teenager. I don't think it gets worse than that. But Fruhdazi will be the opponent today on the bottom. He is Shitrock Enjoyer. This is the deepest run that he's had, but then again, this is only his second Callus Invitational or equivalent. Mana, as we discussed in the previous video, has been deep in these quite a few times and is looking for his third money finish. He would be only the second person in the history of this tournament to ever do so if he is successful. But like I said, so close, yet so far for one of these guys, because the loser will go home with 0. We are still in the best of 3 stages, and this is the game number 1. So Fruhdazi, like I said, is Shitrock Enjoyer. He's on the bottom with a Swampert, and the patented Mana Medicham is on the top. It will switch out rather than Baton Pass out to Cloyster, who's going to set a Spike, tank a Hydro Pump, possibly Spike again. Surf, fair enough. Going to hit the Skarm. Surf again. And Toxic, sure, but I don't think the Cloyster was exactly planning on sticking around too long. Spikes number 2 finally, and spikes number 1 for Fruhdazi, who very much leans in the direction of offensive Skarmory teams, offensive Celebi, Aerodactyl. He definitely does not have a hard-on for those, because that would be inappropriate. He prefers those kind of teams, for those of you out in internet land. And we've got ourselves a 4-4 with Jolteon and Gengar revealed, as well as Double Dragon. Any of you guys remember Double Dragon back in the day? Showing my age. Battletoads Double Dragon video game back in the day. And they had a crappy movie. But either way, Giga Drain there is going to level the Swampert. And the second one will finish him off for good measure. Gengar took some pretty big chunk from the 80% Hydro Pump, but is alive, crucially, and may simply fire Giga Drain off again here as well. And that is what happens. Pursuit, however, damned if you do, damned if you don't. Critical hit, not relevant there. Gengar down, and we've got ourselves a tie at 5 with unrevealeds for both players. There is the crunch. Cloyster down, so 2-2 is the spikes count as Suicune comes in, and an offensive Suicune in particular here, which it certainly seems to be, with Hydro Pump. Okay, I was going to say it could be difficult for Fruhdazi, but it is Last Poke Blissey, which is very much what he needs, because those other Mons would not have been a fan. Medicham comes into a Thunderbolt, good thing that was not Thunder Wave, and it's not going to be in great shape, but he is going to have the balls to Focus Punch there, and he's going to be paid off. Skarmory bites it, And now Salamence comes in both to presumably outspeed. No, the sand says that Medicham is faster actually, and to get Intimidate off. But the fact that Medicham was faster there, it actually gave him the opportunity to crit or flinch and leave Fruhdazi in not a great place. So obviously a slow Salamence to be outsped by the Cham there, or it's max speed Jolly for the Cham, either or. But Jolteon staring down Flygon, I don't believe, yeah, we haven't seen his hidden power yet, but he clicks it there, certainly representing that it's ice rather than grass. Soft Boiled, unavoidable. Roar, however, drags out one of the dragons, and if it is HP Ice, obviously both the Mens and the Flygon want no part of that. So if Man is on point and continues to roar, which he does here, he will eventually gain the edge here. He just has to be on point with his predictions. Blissey again. Can he roar? My man! And here is the Flygon. Does he go for it now? Blissey again. Hidden power, fair enough. And unfortunately for mana, Blissey is going to be out of non-crit Thunderbolt range here, so we needed just one more good roar prediction there to really put Fruhdazi in a bad place, but he wasn't able to pull the trigger. And this time, unfortunately, he's going to screw it up. He's going to go for roar, thinking for sure that Fruhdazi would switch, but Fruhdazi picks the right moment to predict that. Click Earthquake. Obviously, if he's wrong, he would die to the HP Ice there, but perfect timing for Fruhdazi. That play might win him the game. Hidden Power and Ice Beam, but the Flygon can possibly come in here and outspeed and get him. He's not confident in his ability to do that, so he opts for Bliss. We still don't know the last poke for mana. Hydro Pump there with a crit, maybe, but it doesn't come. And Soft Boiled gets him back up to the safety of 80%. Hydro Pump again for lack of something better to do. T-Bolt, a lot, but not enough. Crit Hydro Pump would always kill Blissey here if he finds it. And he's going to go for it, of course, but it doesn't come. I think a crit here would be just short. I anticipate this being a soft-boiled turn. Going to go for the freeze. And it is, in fact, just soft-boiled. Probably just going to take another stab at the freeze here. It is slightly more statistically likely than a critical hit. But he doesn't find it. Suicune goes down. Last poke meta. Going to have to get it done. And honestly, Agila meta could win here. Doesn't seem to have that. Goes for the mash. If it doesn't have agility or some other way to boost its speed, and we know that it doesn't have Salac Berry because we just saw lefties, then I don't think... Oh, stop the presses! He does have agility. Meteor Mash comes up short there. He needed either a raise or a crit, so now he must find a crit or we're done here. And he does not get it. That is a very defensive Flygon to be taking the mashes that well. And the Earthquake is going to finish off meta and put Game 1 on board for the 9-year-old. Fruhdazi with the W, switching it up. Like I said, this is not the kind of team that I would stereotypically associate with Fruhdazi and his preferences. And very well may have been paid off by bringing something a little bit different. So he's going to take the first one, and he is going to have two opportunities to knock mana out here and be so damn close to that cash money. How much cash money? Well, let me tell you, you can make it more cash money by donating, and that is via PayPal donation link, which you can find in the description. It really is important to donate. Like I said, all jokes aside, all attitude aside, I have run this tournament. I ran it 7 years in a row. It is a very, very large time, effort, and commitment sink. It takes away from your weekend and your nights and your time with friends and family. A lot of effort goes into it. So if you guys have been enjoying this, seriously, $5. If you've derived $5 worth of enjoyment from what you've seen so far, please truly consider throwing a little something something into the donation pool. It's what motivates it. It's what keeps the tournament alive. Please consider doing it if you've got the means. Going over here to Game 2. Fruhdazi up 1-0. Looking for that W. George W. Bush. Here we go. He is on the bottom again as Shitrock Enjoyer. Man is on the top. Meta lead, Men's lead, both going to stay. EQ comes up short. Boom gives us a trade. Skarm follow up for Fruhdazi to the surprise of no one. And it's going to be a focus punch as he lays down layer number 1 of spikes, a hefty 68%. And a teched out revenge there, hoping to get hit with Drill Peck. But alas, that is not what occurs. And Magneton, well, it did trap something, so I guess that was the objective. But I think he probably had a different Steel Pokemon in mind. Gonna Thunderbolt repeatedly into Rachi as it calm minds up. Fire Punch there at +1, however. No more Magneton. 5-4 advantage, 5-3 advantage with a clearly unexpected HP Grass there. All the more puzzling now that I see Blissey from Fruhdazi. Why wouldn't you go to that? You go to Swampert and get an HP Grass killed? I mean, like I said, he's 8, so a lot of time to grow and learn. He does pick off the Machamp here with some Thunderbolts, but a lot of damage done in the early stages here from Ban Manaphy. And Jinx in the back is unusual, but I mean, Mana is such a creative builder. We go over this every time. I love the way that Mana builds and the way that he envisions the game. Generally, Jinx is a lead, or it's not there at all. Gonna get into a CM pissing contest, which I don't know if that's Mana's best bet. That might enable Fruhdazi to get back in a game where he's clearly behind at this moment, but they're both committed at this point. You're not going to switch out when you have that many CMs on the other side, so I guess we'll let it play. We'll see who's got the breaker. It is presumably Bolt Beam for Blissey, and Jinx may or may not have Lovely Kiss here, but it's not going to have random HP fighting or something, so here we go. Ice Beam Thunderbolt, the Bolt's doing considerably more, but Jinx of course is faster and has the ability to freeze, and indeed, there is a freeze. Notably, a sandless game here, and Jinx doesn't have lefties and Blissey does, so that is obviously a crucial advantage in this 1v1. Nevertheless, he's only got a turn left to thaw, and he never does. So Jinx was probably not favored to win this situation. Blissey was doing more damage with the Thunderbolts. Blissey had lefties, Jinx didn't. I think the good majority of the time, the Blissey wins there. And then, who knows what the last pokes were for Mana. If he had a Dugtrio or some kind of physical follow-up, a Salamence with Brick Break or whatever, maybe the game wasn't necessarily over. But I also think there are times there where the Blissey wins, which it does the majority of the time, and then nothing remaining for Mana, not Manda. I don't think his real name is Amanda. It could be. Where Mana could necessarily handle it. So that very well, we may have just narrowly avoided a 2-0 Fruhdazi victory there. Like I said, Bliss is supposed to beat the Jinx pretty often. It's hard to know with the two pokes unrevealed. And Fruhdazi even asks him what the last were, and he said that he's going to PM him. So tragically, that information is not in the replay. But yeah, that maybe could have been a 2-0 Fruhdazi victory. As it stands, the Jinx finds the freeze, and the Bliss is never able to thaw out. And we're going to instead go to Game 3, with the loser being out of the tournament. So, here is that Game 3. 7-year-old Fruhdazi on the bottom, and Ban Manaphy looking for that third money finish in this tour on the top. Flygon lead and Medicham lead. Love it. He really does believe in the Medicham. He uses it all the damn time. He doesn't view it as a gimmick at all. He believes in the Mon. And I love him for it. There is Ice Beam looking for his own freeze after the shenanigans of last game. Instead, a seemingly CB Metagross is going to go for Boom and going to take out Skarm. And that could be an issue if Fruhdazi's team is as stally as it seems to be, because usually these teams are pretty passive. There's another Boom trade, by the way, Doll and Mence. But usually these teams are pretty passive and have a hard time actually winning if not for the spikes. He managed to get up 0 layers, and that could mean he has a difficult time killing Mana's team. That being said, Mana's team is not exactly sturdy or built to last, so maybe with it being more offensive leaning, he's got just enough to push him over the edge. Another Focus Punch into Bliss. He did the same thing in the previous game. He was rewarded for it then, and he's rewarded for it now. With a Focus Punch on Flygon, cannot capitalize, EQing into Gar, and Will-O-Wisp narrowly misses Metagross there. Misses twice, in fact. Not good for mana. As it turns out, it is a mixed growth, so Will-O-Wisp wouldn't have been devastating, but still, obviously, you want to find the Will-O-Wisp there and get a clock on him. But Fruhdazi with the lead now because of that Gengar getting eaten alive by the meta. Thunderbolt and Psychic, respectively. Flygon comes in, and Mana not able to predict that. He does T-Bolt into it. Switches it back to Suicune. That seems to be another Mon, Pokemon. My grandma used to think it was Pokemon rather than Pokemon, but I explained it to her. But that is another Mon that I believe he is pretty fond of. We've seen a lot of Suicune usage from Mana. That Rock Slide is low. That is either a bulky Zapdos or a completely, fully, utterly defensive Flygon. Probably that one. Probably an all-defense Flygon. But that's not going to save it from Ice Beam, as we've got ourselves a 3-3. Surf for 42. Psychic for 26. The clock ticking on the Suicune. The question of the day, as per usual, does it or does it not have rest? That question has been answered. The answer is yes. However, it is CM Blissey yet again. Fruhdazi thinks it should have won him the game last time, and he is back to win the game with it this time. Calm Mind. Wakey, wakey, calm mind. Not this again. Yeah, we know the full set. It's non-Roar Coon, so deja vu. We are going to get into yet another Calm Mind pissing contest in yet another sandless game. What an unusual statement to be true 2 games in a row. But that is exactly where we are. And this game and this entire match and the entire tournament for one of these players is going to come down to this 1v1 matchup. This very luck-based, Calm Mind pissing contest will decide the fate of the tournament for one of these guys. And it's certainly looking like it's going Fruhdazi's way. Gonna go for rest, but that's going to give him a lot of opportunities to Thunderbolt. But one thing that is applicable in this matchup that was not last time against the Jinx is that PP matters, especially in a sandless game. Thunderbolt, 24 of them to begin with, effectively only 12 against the Suicune with the pressure ability. If Blissey were to run out of Thunderbolts, she would be in some trouble. So this is a much closer matchup than it was previously against the Jinx, and this could easily go either way. Critical hit Thunderbolt would end it. Running out of Thunderbolts would end it. The fact that it's sandless changes this dynamic in a big way, and Mana seemingly has resigned himself to the stall amount of Thunderbolt PP route. Has no choice but to wake up and rest. And Fruhdazi is simply clicking T-Bolt for the most part and hoping to find a crit. Ice Beam there, interesting. Ice Beam again, not wanting to waste too many Thunderbolts. There's no way that he's out, so he's just picking and choosing when exactly he wants to do that. Wakey, wakey, Ice Beam, fishing for a freeze. And CM there is just stall PP turns. We have devolved into a PP stall here, seemingly. There's a crit Ice Beam and a freeze. Okay, well, if he's got Thunderbolts left, that might be the break that he needs. There's one. If he doesn't thaw here, one more Thunderbolt is probably the ball game. Is he out? He goes for Ice Beam. Hold on. Oh, and he thaws. He's going to be so mad if he has Thunderbolt. Ice Beam doesn't refreeze. Suicune can rest here. No, he's going to go for Surf. Why? He must have anticipated a switch. That's the only reason to Surf there. Now he's going to Calm Mind. So is Fruhdazi. Oh boy. He's keeping track of the PP, obviously. I'm not, and this doesn't show the correct number. But yeah, I mean, if it shows 12, and it's basically double, I think he's out of Thunderbolts. which is why he's not resting, because he doesn't need to. And this, unfortunately, I think Fruhdazi is now in some trouble here. Yeah, man, what a terrible time to run out of T-Bolts. Well, they're going to stare each other down and quick Calm Mind. ADV at its peak, as we're witnessing right here. Prime content. Who is the better Calm Mind clicker? I mean, if this gets to full-on degenerate PP stall, the Suicune with rest and with pressure will win the day. But for now, they are just going through their stock of CM. What are you going to do? This is the tournament for one of these guys. The loser is eliminated, so yeah, as unpleasant as this may be, as much as a lot of you guys watching this in this situation would just forfeit on ladder rather than dealing with this crap, you've got to go through the motions. And that is just what we're doing. Suicune, that was down at one point to 2% without even using rest, is going to get back up to a hundo. Gentlemen, ladies, those of you in the audience watching this, the lesson to learn from this game, this is why we bring sand. Very, very important, and this would never happen if one of the players had brought the best poke in the tier, Tyranitar. But alas, this is where we are. Ice Beams fishing for crits or freezes or what have you, not finding them at the moment. A crit would not kill Blissey. It would just do a lot more than it's doing without the crit, obviously. And let's do a quick PP check. It looks like Fruhdazi's getting pretty damn low. And like I said, he probably has even fewer Ice Beams than that because of the dishonest count with pressure. And then you can't see at the bottom, it's cut off, but there's 10 rests plus everything that you see here. It looks, like I said, that Suicune is going to very, very handily, one-sidedly win the PP contest here. And the outs are going to be not too many for Fruhdazi. Once the Blissey dies, which it will, if the meta is faster, it can come in and boom, but mixed meta, which we know that it is, very often runs minus speed, so it probably won't be faster than the Suicune. And then that leaves us with just the Rachi, and we don't know his set, but he would need an immediate Thunder crit, or a Para, or an Ice Beam, or Ice Punch rather, Freeze, something to that effect. But I believe once the Blissey inevitably does succumb here, I don't know what the outs are. I think obviously if the Suicune is sleeping at that time, then I guess you can boom into it and win with just the Jirachi, maybe. But otherwise, assuming that the Metagross is slower than the Suicune, which I think it will be, then yeah, then the Jirachi is going to have to immediately Thunder Crit, immediately Ice Punch Freeze, something to that effect. The Blissey is struggling now, and gonna take a minute. We're gonna cross turn 1 hundo here, pending a forfeit. But we are eventually going to get to the death of the Blob, and like I said, meta faster, which I don't think it will be. I think it will be negative speed nature being mixed meta, or an immediate one-turn window Jirachi Miracle. But there's also the factor here, I mean, that freeze actually might work against Ban Mana, because the Blissey is not struggling itself down while this is happening, so it's going to cost mana to waste even more of his PP. Looks like he's got enough Surfs left for it to not really matter, but it does just kind of delay the game a little bit. It thaws eventually, and we're back to this, as we do in fact hit the 3-figure mark as far as the turns. Surf again. As you would imagine, struggle coming from Bliss. Doesn't do a whole heck of a lot. Finally, just 2 turns away. Okay. Like I said, I laid out the scenarios. The meta is somehow not minus speed and faster than the Coon and clicks boom, or immediate Jirachi Miracle. Oh boy, he's going to try to Calm Mind up with him. That doesn't do it. Anticlimactic after going through all those motions, but we've got ourselves a 2-1 Ban Manaphy victory, and unfortunately 6-year-old Fruhdazi has been eliminated from the tournament after a pretty deep run. Pretty good series, honestly. The fact that it came down to multiple sandless Calm Mind pissing contests is unusual, and it really illustrates the importance of sand in ADV OU and how much it dramatically changes the dynamic when it's there versus when it's not. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to not look back and question whether this Game 3 should have even happened. There's certainly an argument to be made, and unless the information ever becomes public, we're never actually going to know what these last two pokes were for mana, which is obviously a very relevant factor here. But, I mean, if it is something, for example, like Boomgar, then fine. Then mana might have won anyway. But depending on what these last two pokes were, there is an argument to be made that Fruhdazi should have simply won this game too, won the set 2-0, and it would actually be mana eliminated here rather than Fruhdazi. But like I said, unless the last two pokes ends up becoming public knowledge, we can only speculate. But as it stands, a 2-1 victory in a hard-fought set for Mana. He will be just one match victory away from guaranteed money, a historic third money finish in this tournament, only the second person to ever do it, if he can pull it off. And Fruhdazi, unfortunately, back to Brazil with $0, but a deep run, a respectable run, and he looks as sharp and as promising as ever. Once he graduates from elementary school, he's going to be a hell of a player. Hope you guys enjoyed the content. I believe the current plan is that I will be back for one more match. I think I'm doing the third place match, and then I believe it is Jim from there. So hit that like button, and if you've been enjoying my commentary, always happy to hear your thoughts and your politically correct nonsense and the oh, don't swear and keep it friendly and gentle here and all those good comments that I love to read. Also long intros. I'll make sure to make the next one long as well. Alright, appreciate you guys. I will see you in the next video. Thank you for watching.